Far away on the mainland, there lived two young boys. Their house lived in the woods by the countryside, away from the hustle and bustle of the busy cities. One Sunday, the boys had just turned 10, and wanted to explore what's in the woods. "I've needed one of you two to help me around," Aunt Tony would say. "But Auntie," one of them said, "we want to explore in the woods together." "I know you two want to have fun outside together, but someone has to help me so I don't feel too lonely." Aunt Tony was starting to get old. "If you go too far, you wouldn't find your way home now, would you?" "Please, Tony, we promise not to go too far. We just need to remember landmarks to help guide us." Now, my dear boys," she continued, "it may be hard for you to look for them. You're only starting to get more familiar with everything." "Yes, Tony. We understand, Auntie." "Could you please fetch me some porridge?" she asked. The boys helped their Aunt Tony around the house, keeping her hospitalized. When the time came, Aunt Tony gave permission to let her boys explore the woods. "Don't be gone too long," she called. The boys passed through small creeks, climbed dirt paths, until they spotted something unfamiliar. The boys got closer and closer. It was an old box fan, sitting alone on an abandoned siding. The boys took a closer look, and even one tried to open the sliding door. It was stuck. Until... "Hey!" shouted a voice. Who there?" "It was me, Dunce. Show yourself." "I'm the box fan talking to ya." It was revealed that the box fan was alive. "You can talk?" "Of course I can talk. What else were you expecting? Persecutors?" "What are you doing here in the middle of the woods?" The box fan sighed. "I was just an ordinary van, just like the others. My wish was to become something else one day, other than being ordinary goods. A long time ago, I was detached from an empty freight train and rolled down a branch line and into a siding. I waited a long time, but no one came, so I was left there eternity." "That's quite an unfortunate tale you told us. Where did you come from?" "We're a quarter mile through here, living with our Aunt Tony. We'll stop by sometimes to see you." "That sounds good. I like to have company, especially since before being here." Both the boys smiled as they went home. That evening, Aunt Tony asked how it was like exploring the woods. "We've seen an old box fan abandoned in the woods. And it talks." Aunt Tony seemed little to no astonishment. "That's nice you discovered something that's lost. However, it's dangerous to be near railways or hunt down in the woods. You could have been hurt." "We were careful, Auntie." The boys rolled his eyes. "Still, I stand by what I say." And she rehashed everything from before. The boys grew tired of it. "Yes, Tony, we understand." Over the next few weeks, the boys kept looking after their Aunt Tony. They were also homeschooled, and soon, due to the boys being busy, they never got the chance to see the box fan. The box fan began to think that the boys would never see him again. Years had passed, and the boys had forgotten about the box fan. "Hey, Uglis, remember about the box fan we found out in the woods?" "What about it, David?" "I think we should make use of it. like the storage or playhouse. I'm reading this magazine I found up in the attic. Then I think we should revisit it at once. They left the house, and Aunt Tony's hospitality was thrown out the window. Oh, thank goodness you're back, he cheered. I thought for a moment it was some large animal, like a bear or a fox. We have the idea to put you to good use, Faye suggested. Really? That's wonderful. I can't wait to be back in action, so to speak. Suddenly, they heard a faint thud, followed by a cry for, Help! Help! It sounds like Auntie! Let's go back! We'll be back soon. This is a family emergency. The boys found that Aunt Tony had fallen over. Auntie! Tony! What happened? My legs gave out, she strained. Call the emergency service! They never saw Aunt Tony since. The boys still visit the box fan regardless. One day, someone knocked on the door. It was the doctor. Are you Tony's nephews? Yes, we are. I have come to inform you that your Aunt Tony had passed away this morning. Then who's going to look after the mortgage and us? That would be your responsibility. We unfortunately cannot help you at the moment. The doctor left. The boys had an idea on where to focus on shelter. Let's do it, they discussed. The boys arrived at the box stand and explained what happened over the past fortnight. I'm sorry to hear that. Since Aunt Tony is no longer with us to keep our roof over our heads, we'll turn you into our new home over the month. The box fan was delighted. They grabbed materials from their shed and began to work on transforming the abandoned box fan into their mobile home. The boys were sad to see their stuff being gone, so they got what they could to fit inside the box fan. The project was done just in time. I've never got to ask you two, what are your names? The box fan asked. Oh, I'm Otis. And I'm David, both the boys answered. What's yours? I don't have a name, unfortunately, sighed the box fan. How about we call you Anthony, named after our Aunt Tony who adopted us. And the name stuck with Anthony. He was cheerful. New owners took over Aunt Tony's house, and they were polite enough to let them visit twice a week. The boys showed them their home. They became good neighbors after this. The boys lived inside Anthony for nearly 20 years, and had relocated several times. Now, they were getting ready to move into a house they just bought, just outside the big city. Anthony suddenly became bored again. Excuse me, I know you love me as your home, but I would like to become more than just a mobile home. Already? What plans do you have? Well, David would like to become a filmmaker. That was 20 years ago. I'm wishing to become a vacation tourist instead. You know, you can make your childhood wishes come true. I guess you're right. I do have the best idea that no one else has probably done before. What would it be? How would you like to play movies in railway yards? Really? For real? Anthony started. I'll get started on the blueprints shortly. The boys dubbed it as Project Railway Movie Van. And Anthony now had a purpose, which he'll never get bored of. We have to go now, Anthony, said the boys. I'll miss you very much, he sighed. You gave me what you wished for. I'll be more than delighted for what the future holds. They waved their goodbyes. Tears were shed, as you parted ways. Anthony was optimistic of his new life. He is distinguished from the rest of the rolling stock, and showcased motion pictures and slideshows during appropriate nights. So he'll never forget the two boys, as well with remembrance of her Aunt Tony, who restored him. His new life was here to stay, lasting a lifetime. During Edward's temporary move to Willsworth when Stepney came to visit, he usually did some shunting in the yards for Boko to help arrange trains for engines who come by to collect for goods. On times when he isn't working, he talks with Boko about what's going on. Thomas tells me that I'm still loved by all the engines regardless of the attention I get. In other words, I am what I am. Edward recapped over from what Thomas said earlier that day. That's nice to hear, responded Boko. I relate to that very well. It's not like the attention that makes you special, it's the ones they love you like family, friends, or the ones they know. During their exchange, there was a screeching noise. It was Rebecca, who applied the brakes too late while pulling a red express train. She stopped beyond the station's platform. This is the third time on the island that you've missed the platform, her driver said anxiously. Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Rebecca groaned. Then she looked towards Edward. Excuse me, can you help me give me a push to align the coaches to the station platform, please? Edward agreed to help. He got himself situated on the correct line and buffered up to Rebecca. With effort, he pushed her with the coaches to the station platform. Oh, thank you, complimented Rebecca. I believe you must be Edward the last time I came here. Am I right? Yes, you're right, answered Edward. I've seen you before. You first came here to the island when Sir Topham Hatt took you for a trial. Ah, I remember now. Except I only came by once in a while to deliver passengers up to here. I wish I could stay, but Sir Topham Hatt didn't like how I stopped beyond or too early around platforms. Practice makes perfect. Gordon tells me it took you 22 attempts to aim at the platform correctly the first time, Edward then recalled. Here you go, Rebecca. You're now at the correct spot of the platform. And both the engines whistled goodbye. After Rebecca turned around to go home, Boko asked who Rebecca was. Edward retold the story about her. What a quirky big engine. Sorry it took her so many times to get it correct. Throughout the couple days, Edward taught her how to stop at the platform. When you see a signal box, apply your brakes gradually until you come to a full stop, Edward lectured. Rebecca continued to practice until she got used to it. She would also whistle hello to Edward and Boko when they were up here. Once, she attempted to back up after missing, but the train was heavy and her traction wasn't as good from the other bigger engines. So when Edward was away, Boko came to help her align properly to the platform, whether it be coaches or goods trains. Rebecca's doing well. She was stopping at the platform seamlessly. A whistling interrupted between their exchange. It wasn't just normal whistling. Rather, it sounded like it was in panic. I think she's in trouble, Edward guessed. Rebecca was being pushed by some trolls and trucks. Help! She wailed. What are you doing? Boko asked. No time to answer. Rebecca's in danger, demanded Edward. He approached near the signal box and waited. When Rebecca came to Edward's view, he slowly backed up to prevent violent impact. Rebecca tried screeching. Look out! Upon the stroke of impact, Edward applied his brakes hard on. The screech shrilled everywhere. The train came to a stop. Fortunately, it was able to make the platform. Thank you, Edward, she sighed. I see you are acting like a buffer, so to speak, Boko spoke up. Are any of you okay? Both her drivers examined the brakes. Both your brakes are okay, they checked. It's highly recommended that you avoid too much force, or else your brakes will become damaged. Later that same day, Sir Topham Hatt asked what the commotion was earlier, and both the two explained every detail. I'm sorry, Rebecca. If you are unable to handle stopping at platforms on time, I'll have to forbid you from entering Sodor until you learn how to stop properly. Please, sir, Rebecca whimpered. I've learned how to stop at platforms correctly. Edward even taught me about it. It's true, Edward chimed in. She's really useful at doing so, and got better over time. Sir Topham Hatt considered for a few moments. If you're able to control yourself by stopping at platforms, then I suppose you can stay. Oh, thanks, sir. Not only that, you will also get a new paintwork, and a new number. Rebecca whistled in delight. And how would you like to continue taking my spot at Mishaps? Edward suggested an idea. What does that mean? Rebecca asked. Stepney leaves tomorrow. He has taken over my spot until tomorrow morning. So considering that you're staying, I'm letting you continue being the number 2 engine at Mishaps. Rebecca felt worried that she would replace Edward, but decided to feel glad to continue his legacy of being the number 2 engine at Mishaps. Percy, the green engine, runs the goods line alongside the east coast with Alec and Erica. The line runs alongside the mountains with the roadway and ends at the Sodor toy shop, where Percy and his coaches collect toys for many children to enjoy. There is also a station, a commerce center, and a harbor, where small boats come by to transport goods to the nearest harbor on Sodor. Some engines also come by to collect goods from there too. However, because Percy mainly runs the line, there is scarcity. From there, Percy delivers all the mail at every station, where the trains go. And Percy and the service here would never be complete without Alec and Erica. One night, all three were discussing their day. Well done with the mail, Percy, complimented Erica. Thank you, grinned Percy. It wouldn't have done it without you. Alec was concerned. "You did a good job, Percy," he began. "However, I suggest being on time a few seconds earlier." "Alec, I don't always have to be on time, you know." "Well, I've been keeping track of time on when the mail is delivered. I pay attention to clocks around the station and recording what time we delivered the mail at each station, from Krager to Harwick." Percy wasn't buying it. "I have a schedule to keep, and I always stick with it." "Well, Percy, my advice is to start up early. That way the mail would be much more on time than before," Alec recommended. "Don't listen to him. He's wanting everything to be the same." "So do I," answered Percy to Erica. "I also want to be consistent with my schedules too." "Listen, sissy," Alec grumbled. "I just want Percy to be on time, so there won't be delays." "Whatever, Alec." Erica was not amused. "Just don't irritate Percy." When both the coaches went to sleep, Percy couldn't. He stayed up most of the night thinking about what Alec said. When Percy woke up, he realized he was 6 minutes earlier. "Wake up, you two!" he shouted. "Let's be ready for the mail run today!" "Is it Saturday already?" Erica yawned. "Don't be silly," said Alec. "We need to be ready. You heard the Green Goblin." Percy was coupled to the coaches as he went through a quick inspection they have once a week in case any of them need any adjustments or tune-ups. "Erica needs a chain-up," said a workman after examining. "It'll be a while, so you may be delayed." Once Erica was being chained up, Percy whistled. "Come on, let's go deliver mail now!" And he started to puff away, even knocking his crew out of his cab. The workman shouted, "Stop! Stop!" "Percy!" shouted Alec and Erica. Suddenly, one of the chain links was caught on the points. Percy's wheels gripped ferociously on the rails. "You haven't been for the chain-up yet!" yelled his driver from a distance. The point blade started to bend, and Erica was so horrified she couldn't even shout for help. "Percy, you mustn't go on any further," Alec demanded. "Yes! I will!" Percy strained. With a great heave, the point blade snapped off and punctured right through Erica. Everything stopped. All there was Erica sobbing loudly through the pain, and the crew examined quickly and called for emergency. "You are a very miserable engine!" Alec snapped. "I didn't mean to," Percy whined. As soon as the emergency arrived, Sir Topham Hatt was beyond infuriated. "Percy, you have caused a great deal of confusion and delay," he boomed. "I shall not let you handle the mail work for the week. Once the week is over, you'll be put on probation until Erica is mended." When he left, Alec was still in a state of upsetness. "Thanks a lot, Percy. Now our mail schedule is screwed thanks to you!" Percy was at a loss of words. He nearly cried. The mail was then sent by road and water for the week. Afterwards, Percy was set free to work again. This time, he had to carry Alec and the brake van, because Alec didn't have a brake compartment. They struggled to keep things in order. Mail was overloaded, stops took longer, and were rather late. Even the guard was stressed. Later that night, Percy and Alec remained silent at the sheds, alone in the darkness. Before Percy began to sleep, he heard crying. It was Alec. "Alec," Percy whispered. "What's wrong?" I can't run the mail without Erica. And I've been such a terrible being." "I can understand missing Erica," Percy replied. "You're not terrible either." "No, Percy, You don't understand. Erica has been with me ever since we've been built. There's a bond between all of us. I've tried to help you, give you advice, and it made the situation worse. But how? I wanted to run the jobs right and be consistent. Alec, not everything has to be consistent, Percy rephrased from the week before. I mean, if you would be doing work besides mail, this opens up more than just about what we've had before. You know what I mean? But Alec fell asleep. An upset Percy wanted to put things right. Percy went off to the works to see Erica. He could see her under a lonely light. Erica, he whispered, I'm sorry that I've destroyed you. Alec wanted me to be early and consistent with everything, and it's all his and my fault. Now he can't work and live without you. We need you back. Suddenly, an overnight worker walked up towards Percy. I've heard every single word you said. It won't be for another fortnight. Percy needed to find a way to put things right. He chuffed back home, thinking about what he should do. Alec! Shouted Percy. Let's go! For what? Alec jumped. It's time for me to put things right. Alec needed to chain up this time. So Percy decided to do the same thing he'd done with Erica, intentionally. Percy, what are you doing? Alec shouted. I'm going to put things right, Percy strained. Are you crazy? I may be crazy, but I'm doing this for your own good. But this time, the chain snapped. Percy jolted forward and derailed. So Topham Hatt soon arrived and spoke severely to Percy. Percy, why did you have to do this again? He started. But sir, Silence! He bellowed. You know better not to disobey chain-ups to be on time. Please, sir, Alec spoke up. This is my fault. What do you have to do with this? Alec explained everything. I just want Percy to have me and Erica back together. Well then, continued Sir Topham Hatt, Percy shall use ordinary vans until Erica is prepared. During her maintenance, you, Alec, shall stay with her at all times. Both Alec and Percy were relieved. In no time, Percy was pulled back on the track. Luckily, he wasn't hurt, though he knew he somehow hurt the postal industry with his mishaps. Despite being lonely without his mail vans, he still enjoyed talking to others by exchanging for information. Alec apologized to Erica, and she forgave Alec. A while later, Percy was ready to pick up his coaches. This is just like the first time I picked you two up after refurbishment, Percy remembered. It does, doesn't it? Answered Erica. Sure does, sis, followed Alec. Both the coaches were pleased to see him again. Alec doesn't make him feel uncomfortable anymore, and Percy knows that Alec and Erica will always be inseparable. James the Red Engine likes to be fun. Some engines believe James is showing off his vanity for his red paint. But in reality, James just wants the engines to show him support. When Thomas had to do work on the main line, James had to run Thomas's branch line until Thomas was finished. What was the purpose of Thomas having to run the main line? James asked no one in particular. Doesn't he have his own branch line to run? Well, he did ask Sir Topham Hatt. Then what's with him giving all these odd jobs for no reason? That's because it's my railway and everyone does what I ask. That was the voice of Sir Topham Hatt. I've asked Thomas this morning if he would like to travel down the main line for a couple of jobs he'd like to do. And you must fill in Thomas's branch line until he returns. Yes, sir, I understand, sir, James responded. With the conductor's whistle blowing, it was time for James to hit the trail. When James arrived, the station was busy. Passengers hurried inside the red coaches. Go slow, please, said his driver. One of the passengers witnessed that the Elves Bridge was at the verge of collapsing. It's safe, James defended. At the Elves Bridge, water rushed furiously from NFFL's snowmelt. The force of the raging river made the bridge's supports break loose. When Bertie went on his way in the opposite direction on the road bridge, he saw the bridge collapse. Horrified by this, Bertie drove across the bridge and pulled over. He knew James would be coming at any moment. If he doesn't stop in time, he's done for, Bertie's driver replied. Then James came into Bertie's view. The driver honked the horn on Bertie rapidly. Stop! Stop! He shouted. The bridge is out! James assumed they were just greeting him hello, and made him increase his serotonin, thus speed up. As he passed Bertie, he saw the bridge was out. Stop the train! James shouted. His crew applied the brakes, but due to James speeding up, it was too late. Luckily, the conductor had uncoupled the coach behind the locomotive before James fell in, and was teetering over the edge. The passengers got out quickly from the coach, just in time. Luckily, no one was hurt. Poor James was submerged for hours. As Percy took away the unhurt coaches, Duck brought the breakdown train soon after. James was able to breathe again and felt foolish. So Topham Hatt was on the train with Duck. The bridge collapse wasn't really your fault, said Sir Topham Hatt, but you should know better when to take notice of warnings from other people. Yes, sir, James coughed. It also appears you're on the same page as Thomas, I suppose. What does that mean? James asked. Thomas has had a similar accident akin to yours. He'll tell you later. With the bridge soon repaired, James advised Thomas to be careful when crossing it. James, the bridge is safe, he would say. It's less likely it'll collapse again. But I'll take your word for now. From then on, after the accident, James would carry on to cross bridges normally, though he would slow down just to be safe. Many engines on the Island of Sodor use different types of fuel. Many steam engines use coal. oil for diesels, and wood specifically for towing. Another source of fuel would be electricity. So Topham Hatt held a meeting for the engines. An electric engine, which I name as the Exclusive, will be arriving today. It will be taking a trial to see if it would stay or not. I know what that Exclusive is, Percy chimed. It's in— Don't spoil it! Shouted the other engines. I know you're all excited to create the Exclusive. Before we do so, we must get everything ready for its arrival. All the engines worked hard to make sure and double check everything is in working order for the Exclusive. Once their work was finished, they were ready for the Exclusive's arrival. The signal dropped to green, and a purple streak went right through the station. It streaked so powerful, Topham Hatt's hat flew off to the end of the station. What was that? They all shouted. Was that the Exclusive you were talking about? Asked Henry. So Topham Hatt's bodyguard looked at the clock, then the clipboard, and showed it to him. It appears so, I'm afraid, he said, recovering from the streak. The purple streak turned out to be the Exclusive. Ladies, gentlemen, and engines, so Topham announced, this is For Kana, the Exclusive.
You can call me Kana, she greeted. I'm a Shinkansen.
What's a Shinkansen? Asked Percy, puzzled. Shinkansen, rephrased Thomas. It's another word for bullet train, so Topham added. She is on trial. If she is really useful, then she'll be the first electric engine on the island. Kana spoke up.
I lived all the way from Japan, and I finally get to meet the real Thomas the Tank Engine. Unlike you sort of engines, which I never care about.
I'm often glad you get to see me finally, Thomas peeped.
If I'm useful, then more electric engines come and go, because they say locomotives are pollutive,
she smirked, wondering out loud. Well, thank you, Kana, said the engines in a neutral manner. However, most weren't really happy. Later that evening, the bigger engines had an indignation meeting. This didn't apply to the steam engines, but also the diesels. She's going to replace us because we're pollutive, Gorham rebuked. Electric indeed, Davy grumbled. She's going to spoil our image, James remarked. They mostly gave her honest feelings about the electric engine will be taken over for work if she's useful. Kana had heard what the others said. Thomas felt sorry for her. Come stay on my branch line for a while, told Thomas. I'm sure more friends of mine would like to see you.
Thank you, Thomas,
Kana said, smiling.
Did I forget to mention that in Japan, Freddie Thomas I get to meet sometimes? I wish to meet the real Thomas. It came true.
Kana grew in love with seeing Thomas. What will happen to the others about her, of course? I suppose those reasons will be said for next time.
You poor engines are so out of date.
Kana criticized what others said the day she arrived.
You're slow, pollutive, and unreliable. A Japanese engine like me knows what's good for the world.
Stop that! Someone would shout. We don't pollute the world too much like other countries do. This island is what we call a locomotive refuge.
But I'm efficient, faster, and more reliable.
Kana defended herself from the others. Out of all the steam engines who were upset, Toby was the least. We love doing our work on the island. It's our passion of life, he would say.
and all the engines work together, whether it be steam, diesel, or electric. "You're just selfish!" Kana sparked, as she zoomed away from the shed. Secretly, her feelings were still hurt, despite proving her point. When Kana left, the Topham Hatt was about to give specials to the engines. "Excuse me, sir," Toby would ask. "It's about Kana." "Yes, what about her?" "Is it true from what she said about us engines polluting the world?" "Unfortunately, it's true," sighed the Topham Hatt. "However, this doesn't mean you engines will be out of service yet. When the time comes, I'm very sure you will not be sent for scrap," he then reassured. This made the engines feel better, and began feeling sorry for Kana. The passengers began to board on Kana's high-speed service, known as the Explosive. "Shu Petroshinku," she said as she began departing. Kana enjoyed the breeze as she whooshed through the air with the trees flying through. She passed Henry with a flash through his forest. Henry noticed some liquid drips on ballast and sleepers. Henry had to let the others know about what's happening to Kana. Kana arrived at the other railway. She spoke to a nearby diesel. "Is that a polluted locomotive I smell?" Kana retorted. "Excuse me," the diesel growled. "I don't trust technology like you. We diesels are the future. Less power and less maintenance." "But you and your country don't cause more global warming than mine," she countered. "Grrr! Keep your stupid techno rubbish away from me and my alleys," roared the diesel as he left with black smoke leading through his exhaust vents. If I had updates, then I'd given him a piece of my mind in a more brutal way. "Don't get too heated now, ma'am," her driver warned, reading her mind. "Let's continue back to Sodor." Meanwhile, Toby was getting refilled at a water tower. Henry was talking about Kana. "I thought her only source of fuel was electricity," Toby asked. "She uses a battery," he answered. "Driver says that liquid is battery acid. If it leaks more, it's likely she will run out of battery, or worse, catch fire. Then you have to remind the signalman to warn her." "I already did." Then, Kana zoomed past. "Senorita, old-timers!" "Where is she heading?" Toby asked. "Down the Ulstead branch line," Henry answered. "I heard from witnesses that she's delivering passengers down there." "She's too heavy to go along my line," Toby panicked. "I must stop her." And Toby left quickly with the water still running. He needed to save his branch line. Sometime after Kana joined Toby's line, she ran out of battery in the middle of the lock. "Kotsutara!" she snapped. "Why did I stop?" Her driver checked the battery. "Your battery has leaked." "Oh, I shouldn't have to be cheap." Toby then arrived at the scene of the incident. "What are you doing on my line?" he asked. "It's not suitable for your weight." "I wanted to deliver passengers somewhere down this line," Kana answered, feeling rather embarrassed. "Maybe you should have handled the rest of the work for a steam engine like me. That's what branch line station junctions are for. Letting bigger engines transport to smaller engines where they can't go," Toby continued. "Since you haven't learned your lesson yet, I guess you'll be left here for good until the rails don't hold you anymore." Toby began to back away from her. "Please, Toby," Kana shouted. "Can you help me to the next station? I'm sorry for exposing the truth to the other engines and being self-centered. I promise I'll be a decent being." Toby then stopped. "I suppose," he thought, "if you're going to be much more useful, then I'll help," he puffed. Toby puffed up behind Kana's coaches, and with a few heaves and huffs, they were on their way to the next station.
When they arrived at the station, the passengers and Toby gave a sigh of relief.
Thank you, Toby, Kana smiled. I'm ashamed I've hurt other engines' feelings. Do we think they'll forgive me for what I've done?
This will take a while for them to adapt to your abilities, Toby said. For now, why don't you stay on Thomas's branch line when we fetch your new battery? The engines there will be easier to deal with. From the next day onwards, Kana became friends with the Farquhar engines.
Blue as the sky on a sunny day, puffing down the tracks with no delay. Edward's got a heart, brave and true, rolling along with work to do, helping friends when in a muddle. Edward's wisdom is here on the double. Old but gold, yes, he's the one, shining brightly like the morning sun. Edward rolling down the line, full of tales, he's looking fine, with a whistle and a smile so bright, chuffing through the day and night. Up the hills and through the vale, Edward never seems to fail. Dependable, you can always rely on our blue friend Edward as he steams by. When the storm clouds gather round, Edward keeps his wheels on the ground, strong and steady, never out of place, with the determination